Hey everybody, I am Ms. Rojas and I'm excited to get us started on a brand new unit. So we're going to be looking at political systems. Today it's just an introduction at some of the basics. So overall we're going to be looking at namely the democratic and authoritarian types of government, as well as hybrid, which is a little bit of a mix of the two, and then also looking at the roles of government. Just as a reminder, the resource links are at the start of every slides deck. So if you need to look at the terms, watch these lectures, which is probably how you got here, and then of course some other resources for our class. All right, so for political systems, we have democracies. These are systems that have the main characteristic of citizens having a voice in decision making. Right here, what's in the bold, that is the main part of it. This tends to be through free and fair elections. We also have authoritarianism. So authoritarian systems concentrate power in a single leader or in a small group. So very, very few people actually hold power, and we tend to see limiting of political freedoms. And then a hybrid system is exactly how it sounds. It's a hybrid. It's a system that blends elements of both. So you see like a mixing of the two for a hybrid system. So let's take a look at democracy. So again, we have the definition right here. So which of these is an example of a democracy? So the first characteristic we have, leaders gain power through inheritance, appointment, or force with no voting or citizen input. Election results are determined before the votes are cast, with the ruling party controlling the vote count. Or the election process is transparent and independent observers confirm that there is no voter fraud or manipulation. So you can pause it, let yourself think for a second. And the correct answer is election process is transparent. Independent observers confirm there is no voter fraud or manipulation. So again, this helps to reaffirm that citizens have a voice in decision making. All right, so let's do another practice, but with authoritarianism. So which of these following, there's a little typo, is considered an authoritarian system? So here we have citizens can freely criticize the government, organize protests, and participate in debates without fear of punishment. Or citizens who publicly criticize the government or organize protests are arrested, detained, or go missing. The last option, leaders are chosen through transparent, competitive elections where all citizens have an equal vote and choice. So you can pause it here if you want to think for another second. But the best example of an authoritarian system where we have very limited political freedom is citizens publicly criticizing government tend to have punishment. So we see varying levels of this in different authoritarian systems. Okay, moving on to roles of government. So first, one of the most important terms you need to know is governance. This is the process and method by which decisions are made. So this is implemented in a government or an organization. This can also be just how general organizations run. It includes formal institutions like laws and informal practices like customs. So let's take a look at an example of this. These come from the US. So a formal institution of governance is the U.S. Constitution. This is a legal document, and this outlines formal governance. So this actually says how government is run. A U.S. informal practice of governance are certain traditions, like the president delivering an inaugural address at the start of their term. So once somebody is voted for and elected president, they have this inaugural ceremony and they give a speech, right? That's not by law, right? That is just custom, that is just tradition. So for authority, this is legitimate power that a person or a group has to make decisions and enforce laws. It can be derived from laws, traditions, or social norms. So authority is holding that power, right? And that power comes from different sources. So if we look at this example here, Xi Jinping's authority of China, his authority comes from the formal positions of having the top 3 roles in China. So he's the general secretary of the Communist Party, he's the president of the country, and the chairman of the Central Military Commission. So that means he has authority, he has control over the political party, the state, which is just another word for country, and their military. He also, let me go back. He also has built loyalty among certain officials, so that also helps to maintain his authority. If people trust him, right, if he's able to get them on his side, then he's able to have that control and have that power. All right, moving on. So rule of law, this is a principle that all people and institutions are subject and accountable to the law that is fairly applied and enforced, ensuring that no one is above the law. In other words, this just makes sure that the laws apply to everybody, to every organization, to every business. Nobody can make exceptions if it's against the law, right? So let's take a look at, again, which would be considered following rule of law. So here we have the definition, if you need to pause it and take a look at that. So scenario 1, if someone is accused of a crime, they are given a fair trial where evidence is presented and both sides can speak. The judge applies the law equally to everyone, no matter how rich or powerful the person is. Scenario 2. A government leader commits a crime, but instead of being arrested or tried, they are protected because of their position. Other citizens who commit the same crime are punished, showing that the law is not applied equally. So you can check with the definition here. And the scenario that would be considered following rule of law is scenario 1. Right? The idea that everybody gets a fair trial, right? Everybody has the laws applied to them equally, the same across the board, regardless, right? If somebody's a government leader, they should still be held accountable, right? If somebody's wealthy, they should still be held accountable. If somebody comes from a particular background, they are still held accountable. So rule of law just applies laws equally, regardless of who you might be. And that's it. So go ahead and take a look at the next video.